surprised me that Springfield did not have a literary journal. Springfield has literary journals, but it didn't have one of a national or international reputation and scope. And that surprised me because there are a lot of writing groups here, and there's a thriving arts community here. I think it's sometimes, it's a bit segmented, but it's there, you know, and not every group may know about the other group, but boy, if we could get them all together,
Right.
wouldn't that be wonderful? But at any rate, when I was a graduate student at UIS, I love public radio. I love NPR, and I did not have a lot of disposable income as a graduate student, so I just called up the radio station and I said, you know, I'd like to contribute something, and it can't be money at this time, so what can I do? And I started with answering phones at Pledge Drive, and then I got to speaking with Lisa Clemenstadt, who was the director of development at that time, and we talked about, you know, my interest in creative writing, and she has an interest in creative writing, and so we talked about doing some poetry roundtables, and we started with that. And then I got to thinking about these two things together. Like, how neat would it be to have a journal that had a public radio program so that you can get the sonic part of it too? And so I brought this idea to Lisa, and we wrote a proposal together. And it was probably a year and a half. I can't remember after that, that it became a reality. And I was not prepared for the number of submissions that we would receive in the first year. I knew that we would receive a lot, but I had no idea, just the glut of submissions that would pour in. And I'm very glad that it did, but we had to increase our editorial staff really quickly, and I'm glad that we had you know, the resources to do that. But the people that I work with on Quiddity are just, they're phenomenal. They really, it's a team effort in every way. It's not, I cannot speak highly enough about them and the work that they put into it. The reading and the communicating with authors and poets, and just to put everything together, and the amount of production work that goes into a single journal is just, it's astounding. And it takes a lot of heart and passion to do it right. And thankfully, I work with just an incredible team.
What's been one of the highlights of people that you've talked with, though, I mean, like from the program that you can think of?
I think James Wynn was a definite highlight. He wrote The Poetry of War. And when I saw that title, I was intrigued by the title, which is why I picked it up and read it. And I was just blown away by the connections, the relationships that soldiers have with one another, and with the written word. I didn't know about that at all. And getting to speak with Bob Palenga too, who's up at Knox College, that was just fun. That was one of the best interviews as far as just being a fun interview that I've ever conducted, I think.
How do you, I mean, the program's once a month, so, I mean, how did you schedule, like, how are your, one week you're doing this, one week you're doing that? I mean, is it like that? Is it set up like that?
We don't solicit, or we don't accept unsolicited interviews. We only solicit interviews. And usually it's either books that people have put in my hand and said, oh, you've got to read this. Those are the best books, you know, when somebody says, oh, I read this, you have to read it. And, you know, it's something that really intrigues me, or I think, wow, other people should know about this. And what we don't do is we don't just limit it to brand new books. I didn't want it to be a show like that. I didn't want it to be a promotional show. You know, here we are promoting the latest book. I wanted it to be about thoughtful, meaningful works, no matter when they were published. And so I have just probably 5 books that I'd like to finish, and it's not like Larry King. We read the books that we talk about. And I'd like to finish for the next, I have the next 5 programs in mind. So I think about 5 programs out, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's dictated by, you know, what's going on. We did the Lincoln programming last year, and that was a lot of fun. But we usually set up interviews in the studio, but oftentimes, like this past year, I went to Scotland. I did a presentation about the yonder side of Sasson, Texas at the International Conference for
I
the
read
book.
your blog.
Did you?
Yeah.
And that was really fun. And I met John Mann there, who wrote what I'd always pronounced as alpha beta, but then when I met him, he pronounces it alpha beta. So I suppose I should say that. But he was giving a talk, and I came in to the talk. I had met someone beforehand, so I came into the talk about 5 minutes after he was underway, so I missed the introductions. And I was listening, and I thought, this sounds familiar. I think I've read a book about this. So I went up to him afterward, and I said, you know, that was just really interesting. Thank you. You know, thanks for your time today. And so I think I've read about that, you know, a couple of years ago. And he said, alpha beta, and I said, yeah, alpha beta, yeah, I think it was that. And he said, I wrote that, and I was just like, oh, you're John Mann, you know, oh my gosh, can I interview you? And so we sat down, and I bring the digital recorder with me everywhere I go, just in case, you know, and there are just so many opportunities when I don't have it with me, because it's kind of bulky. It's in my car with me where I go, but you know, I'll be walking somewhere and I'll think, oh, I wish I brought that. That sound would be perfect, you know, to play for the show, but you can't get everything. So like I said, it can be overwhelming, but
Yeah.
just pick and choose. But it is definitely fun. And I know when I originally, when the radio station trained me on the software, you know, and everything, and it's amazing that you can do these things in your home, because I always picture, you know, an NPR and
Right.
they're in the studio, yes, and they're speaking to them right at that moment, you know, and no. It's, you know, it's me sitting on my couch at midnight, like, I can't get this to work, you know. So, but it's fascinating. I really enjoy it. But I remember when I went through the training, one of them said to me, for every minute that you're on the radio, it takes 1 hour of preparation and production work. And I thought, sure, maybe for you, but not for me, you know, it'll go faster than that. Not that I thought I was an expert, but I just thought it's not going to be that involved. I mean, we're just talking to people, we're just interviewing them, you know. It takes me longer than that, and so it is a major production, so to speak, but I love it. Yeah. And it's really fun, and it's fun to find music, and when you talk to people about what you're working on, they'll suggest music to you, and sometimes the authors themselves will suggest music to you. Cool. You know, because they've, when I, you know, approach people about interviews, I always give them the link, and I can tell some of them have listened to the program because they'll say, you know, and this song might go really well, and they're right.